Hey everyone, welcome to the Real vs. Fake segment. Today we're going to be discussing the Air Jordan 3. And the reason we're discussing the Air Jordan 3 is because they've been released this year. The retros have been coming out. The cement has already released. The true blue is coming out here in a few days. And of course there's going to be a couple more releases coming throughout the year. So why not do the Real vs. Fake on the 3? Because so many people are going to want the 3 and there's going to be so many more sharks out there trying to get you to buy the fake product. So let's go ahead and review it. We're going to start with the Air Jordan 3 in the white cement. So let's just get into it. We're going to discuss 7 key features to look for. And we're going to start off with the first one, which is stitch pattern. So if we look at the stitch pattern here on the Air Jordan 3, the fake version, you can clearly see that the stitching only goes across the bottom of the tongue area. And on the real, it will wrap around fully. So it will fully enclose that, give it more security. You won't see these little bumps here on each side on the real Air Jordan. Also, another thing to look for is the actual stitch pattern of the shoe in general. Just the sloppiness, the poor craftsmanship that you'll see on fakes will be an easy giveaway. Now that doesn't mean that Jordan brand doesn't have, small quality issues. All brands have those kind of problems. But all in all, you're going to see more than just one stitch problem out of the way. Like if there's one thing that's wrong, that's not really a deal breaker. It's going to be a multitude of things, and fakes mess up in more than one area. So that's why we're going to go over so many. So in the second area, if you look here, you can clearly see that the stitching around the lace holes here at the bottom, it's actually got some red tint to it. Instead of the stitching being white like the whole rest of the shoe, the integrity of that portion is lost because now you can clearly see how poor it is. With the red stitching around this area. Also, a third thing to look for, and this is one of my favorite and most easy ways to look at an Air Jordan 3 and tell right away if it's going to be real or fake, is the stitching up around the laces here. So almost all the way up to the top of the shoe, you'll see that there's stitching here that goes all the way through. When it should stop at the end of these 3 lace holes, it actually goes past it. And on this particular pair of fakes, you can clearly see that there's a third strand of thread that goes through just behind the lacelets, and that's not right. So that's something that's very easy. It's really easy for me to tell, along with the actual holes punched in here. They're supposed to go all the way through to give your foot ventilation. It's one of those things that people always say, like, you'll get people that are like, oh, what's the difference? They look the same, they feel the same, they're made in the same place. That's not true. When you start cutting corners like that and not letting the foot ventilate, you end up with your feet are just burning up. It's because the shoe itself doesn't have the same comfort level. It's not the same shoe as the real version. So moving along, let's just go up to the tongue. And this will be our fourth area to look at, is the material used on the tongue. You can clearly see that it's nice and smooth on the fake Air Jordan. And on the real Air Jordan, for the cement release, it should be a tumble leather up top. So for the 2011 Air Jordan 3, you'll have tumble leather for the tongue and not just a smooth leather like on this particular pair of fakes. So now let's move to something that's really critical, the elephant print. And the elephant print is a major part of the shoe. It's just like one of those iconic things that when you think of elephant print, you always think of the Jordan brand because you've seen it and everyone loves that actual design aspect of the shoe. So if we look at the elephant print here on the fake, what we have is it's nice and smooth. Like if you run your finger across it, it's just nice and smooth. It's this one piece of leather and it's just painted gray and black. So you can feel it. It's just nice and smooth, almost like a piece of paper. On the real Air Jordan, you can feel the texture you can actually see the grooves of the elephant print, which actually has that same look and feel of elephant skin, like the elephant print, just a grain into it. So you'll see that on the fakes, that it's nice and smooth all the way around. That's just a dead giveaway, and it's like a cardinal sin on the Air Jordan 3. So you definitely want to stay away from that. Let's jump to the bottom of the shoe, and this is very easy. On the fake Air Jordan, if you look at it from a distance, it looks nice and smooth. You're like, okay, that looks legit. And then when you get up close to it, you can see just right here, there's a square, almost like they stamped that piece onto the bottom of this shoe at the very end of production. And that looks very nasty. So you won't see that on the real Air Jordan. It's nice and smooth all the way around the word Jordan. So that's an easy giveaway for the bottom of the shoe. And then the last thing, and this is something that if you look at them side by side, you can totally see the difference in the Jumpman on the heel of the shoe. So on the Jumpman of the heel of the shoe of the real Air Jordan, you can clearly see that His arm has a wristband, so you will see a wristband here. On the fake, what you see is it almost looks like he has a jacket on and a sleeve. You can see a sleeve coming all the way up. If you look down to the bottom where his feet are, you can clearly see how it's just, it doesn't actually replicate shoes. It just looks like two little triangles on the ends of his legs. These things, seen side by side, you can clearly tell that the Air Jordan 3, you can clearly tell a difference between the Air Jordan 3 a fake and an Air Jordan 3 authentic. And the colorway doesn't matter. And those of you that know me, I say this all the time, know your colorways. But stitch patterns and the things that we discussed, it goes with all of the Jordans. You know, all of the 3s have elephant print. It might be a different color, but they all have that. So they all have that same grooved feel. It should never be smooth like that. The stitch patterns on all of them. And as you can see on the Air Jordan 3 Authentic Cement and the Air Jordan 3 Authentic Dornbecker release, you can clearly see that the stitch patterns are the same. And that just goes on from colorway to colorway to colorway. That's just the way the shoe is made. And you can clearly see on the fakes how many corners they cut when you see them side by side. So this was just a look at the Air Jordan 3. I'm sure many of you guys have some things and tips that you want to share with others. You could definitely do that. And if you guys want to see a real and fake comparison here on Sneaker Shoebox, definitely let us know. Let us know what you want to see, and we can definitely work to get that going. We'd like to do these ongoing with different shoes, different brands. If you're looking to spend $300, we want to make sure that you're spending it on the real product and not a $40 replica. So send that stuff into sneakershoebox.com. Thanks for watching this segment, and we're going to go back to the studio.